All right, I'm going to call the Neary Building Committee Communications Subcommittee meeting to order for Friday, March 8th, 2024, and it is 1:04 p.m. Welcome, everyone. We have our 3 voting members, and I see Kathleen's coming back in now. Hi, Greg and Kathleen as well. First item is approval of meeting minutes for January 26, 2024. Were there any questions or comments on that? All right, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we will do a roll call. Denise?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an aye as well. So that is a unanimous vote. Hi, Kathleen. Next is a website update. So as you all know, the full building committee approved the contract 2 meetings ago. The website design team has been hard at work. They have asked for certain inputs from the district in terms of color schemes, font sizes, languages, things that the district's already used to working with based on other newsletters and other things that they work through. We expect to get a preview about, it seems like it may be ready as early as next week. There's not gonna be any content on it, but really just kind of all the headers and all of that, so that then we can work to populate it as the project evolves. Obviously, there'll be certain things that will be able to be populated immediately, and there'll be other things that will be work in process and require committee votes like FAQs. So my real question from the communications subcommittee is obviously not going to be able to meet every time we want to post or update the website. My understanding is that the administration team will have access and edit rights to post like, hey, we have meeting minutes, or we have this, or we have this document that comes out of the MSBA process, that content that's already public documents, that I would think we would just upload as it becomes available, and that our focus would be around responding to inquiries from the community, whether it be faculty, staff, parents, or other interested community members. But we don't need to formalize rules today, but I do think we need to have some sort of general agreement of at least start the conversation of what should be coming back to the committee versus what the administration should have the ability to just do. I was drawing the line at FAQs or any sort of major content that's outside and hasn't been previewed or discussed at a Neary building committee meeting or isn't already a public document. But I welcome anyone's thoughts on other areas of where we draw that line, so we can maybe try to adopt a policy at a future meeting. So open it up for commentary. Any thoughts?
I have a thought. I think that anything that, for example, an update that is in generalities to the website should be at the purview of the administration. I don't think there should be any reason not to. Time is of the essence, and certainly this committee can't meet every single time they want to add something. Like, for example, if there are illustrations that Skanska has brought forward or Aerosmith, and it's not something that's a debatable issue, but an illustration of something that's going on should be allowed to be put on by the administration. I mean, they should have that license to do that. I think the question only becomes when it's something that the committee itself, the general building committee, needs to address, or then I think that it should be brought to us in order to be decided whether it would go on the website. But I think they need to have the ability to put things on. Certainly we have trust in Skanska because, we placed our trust in them. And if it's just updates or, pictures or whatever, like for example, when we get into the middle of this, a parking, not parking, but, egress and, to the building, those things, I don't think, don't need to come before us is my feeling.
Yeah, so just for my experience on other projects, typically, yeah, any updates that go on the website, one thing we will say is that any graphics or anything, most documents that go up there, if they could run through us before they go on the website, just to make sure that they're the latest and greatest, there hasn't been any revisions to them. If we could just have a cursory review, we do like to have a look at that just to make sure, especially if it's anything to do with MSBA. And for content that goes up, how we've seen it in other districts, if it's a potentially contentious issue or an issue that the community might have an opinion on, especially when we get into options and things like that, bringing that to the full communication subcommittee is important. So it's really gauging, I agree, if it's just boilerplate, here's the, MSBA timeline that everybody's seen, that there really shouldn't be that many comments. But if it's a, something on the consolidation or enrollment that, has to be carefully worded, then that kind of raises to the level of coming to the full communication subcommittee. So that's been my experience.
Great. Sounds like we're aligned so far. Roger?
So I would tend to agree with both Denny's and Jim's comments. I do have a question about the potentially contentious, I guess, definition. So what we're, if, and look, I know this is it's always difficult. This is kind of maybe it's an art, not a science, if you will, but I think it's kind of the right direction, but I think we're kind of saying, if we adopt that we're leaving the definition of what is potentially contentious to either the district first, right, and or Skanska, and I would think there'd be some level that we might want to weigh in on that as a committee, right? So I don't know where that line gets drawn, or even if people agree with my comment.
Let
Now,
me,
go ahead, sir.
sorry, Jim, let me just translate. I think we're all saying the same thing. And maybe let me make it cut and dry. Is I would propose that for now, any frequently asked question, like we'll get into some sort of regular cadence as a communication subcommittee, not long meetings, but any question that we're going to be responding to come before the communication subcommittee until we get a little further in the project and can define contentious versus not. My guess is, absent the wordsmithing we tend to do amongst ourselves, we'll likely be aligned on the content there. But again, we need some beta testing to do. So I think frequently asked questions are going to be really important, especially with the surveys that are now going out, that we're going to start to get some of the frequently asked questions, or with all of the feedback sessions that we're now having, whether it be open forums and people actually show up, or faculty meetings that Greg is conducting, et cetera. And so I would think any FAQ, we're just going to bring it back. We're not going to even judge whether it's contentious or not. And I would advocate for now that the only thing we'd be posting without permission is fact or documents already presented to the full building committee. So for example, if Arrow Street brings a floor plan at some point of option A versus option B, full building committee reacts to it, and then it gets posted after that meeting saying this is what the committee discussed. And obviously, if there's any votes around it where a formal vote was taken, list the vote there too, just to kind of show the timeline. That way, I don't think there's any judgment calls that need to be made, because it's already public documents and it's already out there for public consummation for anyone that wants to find it.
The only thing I would add to that, just because you meant not to go down the rabbit hole, but I think setting up a protocol from a security standpoint on the school district, do they want floor plans on the website? To set up what the expectation is,
Mhm.
No floor, because I know, like in Arlington, no floor plans go on the website. Only, documents can go up there. So I think that that's an important protocol to set, not necessarily today, but that's a very important piece of what we do. And if it's going through the school administration, obviously they'll have eyes on it, but definitely an important protocol to set.
Well, and I agree with that. And Greg and I have had many conversations about floor plans of existing buildings over time. But
Mhm.
I think we need to take that a step backwards, Jim, is before it comes to the full building committee, we need to have a discussion of whether it should be in public or executive session,
Mhm.
depending upon what's on that piece of paper, because we do have one provision that can go into executive. It's very limited though, right? But um, once it hits our screens in a public meeting,
Yeah.
it's public.
Mhm.
Right? Now, again, we could choose not to repost it, and someone would have to go back through the meeting, but I do think there needs to be care and thought, which is, I think, why you preview your meeting packages with the working group, et cetera, as well. But that's a really good point. But I want to take it, should never get to the communication subcommittee.
Yep.
It should actually be prior to it and ending up in a meeting packet.
Makes sense. Yep.
Greg.
And I think that as the feasibility phase moves forward, I don't see a situation where, kind of the conceptual ideas of the different options. I think that is fine. It's when we get to preferred schematic design, which is really, to me, the place where we're saying no floor plans, no, are allowed on the website.
Okay. We're not going to be ready to post anything until the end of the month, but I think this was a good conversation. The question I then have for the subcommittee is, obviously, if more than one of us is in a meeting with the website designer, that's a public meeting. So is everyone comfortable with kind of just seeing a first draft, like a beta test we'll have a group meeting to just react to it, as opposed to having the communications subcommittee participate with the website designer as they go through, I'll call it, less impactful decisions about, do you have your menu bar over here or over here, sort of thing. They don't have a strong feeling on that.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I
Denise?
I'm okay
Okay.
with that.
I was trying to put my hand up and down to signify I was nodding my head, because that's the only way I could nod my head and kind of be in with the group. Okay. Don't think it worked.
That camera's giving me a sour topic here.
Well, when we adjourn and you stop recording, I'd love to try to, if you could stay for a second, I'd love to try to dial in again, just to see if this was a connection problem as opposed to some other problem. But that'll
All right.
take 30 seconds.
Okay, I will coordinate with you separately on that.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else on the website? Okay.
Sorry, I couldn't get off mute quick enough. There was just two small charges, correct? It was like $300 or $400. Do you have any backup for that we could put in the invoice package for the finance subcommittee?
Yes.
Okay.
The town accountant already has them because it went on the town's credit card, actually. But that was
Oh,
for
okay.
the hosting in the domain name. Oh, that's an important thing. It's going to be nearybuilding.com. We've secured that domain name for $40 for the next 3 years total. In case anyone's wondering. Okay. Social media update and protocols. So as everyone knows, we need to obviously increase our reach on publicity of open forums. There's now the survey that's coming out. I'll let Greg speak to the timing of that, as an update from our meeting on Monday night as a full committee. But what I was looking for from the communications subcommittee, unless someone else has a strong desire to do it, and I'm not saying I have a strong desire to do it, but I know I'm just going to be nominated to do it, is to set up a Neary Building Committee Facebook page, where we can basically just publish and people can follow at their leisure. For example, the one-page flyer on the open forum, and publish the one-page flyer that we now have on the survey that's forthcoming. Not really add any words to it other than content that's already out there in the public, and start to allow kind of the power of social media and people in terms of people's like resharing of things, in being able to control it that way. Obviously, we will start with 0 followers and we'll see what we get to. But I thought it was an important step to at least have the permission to set up Facebook only at this point, and really agree that it would really only be flyers at this point, no content, etc. We can also talk about longer term how we use that page, but really just giving people that are interested in this project an opportunity to opt in as they move forward, while obviously being cognizant of some of the conversations we have with campaign finance folks not too long ago. So that's what I'm looking to achieve. And of course, if there's any volunteers to do it, more than happy to, because I'm not really a social media guy in terms of a user, but I do unfortunately manage other pages, so I'm used to it.
Well, I certainly support you taking that on, Jason. I'm less of a, I haven't heard from Denise here, but I'm less of a social media person than you are, even if you're not much of a social media person. I think Greg already knows that.
And I'm less than you, Roger. So I
And
think it's wonderful, Jason, that you would help us out.
I'd be happy to have that contest with you, Denise. I'm not so sure that you'd actually be less than me. So think about that.
Okay. So I think we should probably just do a motion to formalize it, but I will move that the communication subcommittee authorize the creation of a Facebook page, and that for now the content remain to publishment of open meeting dates in flyers that are already approved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Roll call vote. Denise?
Aye.
Roger?
Aye.
And I am I as well. Next is open forum update in discussion of other communication avenues for education of the community. And I'm going to combine that with the survey update. So let me give one update, then I'll have Greg give another update, and then I think this is just a discussion for the communications subcommittee based on what we heard the other night in our full meeting. First and foremost, the open forum that was scheduled for Monday night was rescheduled, ironically enough, to the 11th of April. So we're going from March 11th to April 11th per the conversation the other night. I will get an invite out to the full committee for that. As everyone's aware, the two main reasons for the rescheduling were, one, to given the lackluster attendance at the first one, in knowing that there was going to be some additional content that could be shared in a presentation form by Skanska and Arrow Street that really culminates their initial educational visioning process. We thought it would be more impactful and hopefully an easier poll to get people out. I don't know if that's going to double our attendance, triple, or keep the same, but we'll see. So that is the plan. A message is going out today, is my understanding on that, and it's already on the town website with the new date that was posted before they closed today. So Greg, maybe you could talk about how you're getting the message out about the open forums, and then also what you're doing on the survey, and then we'll bring it back to a broader conversation about what else we need to or should be doing at this point.
Sure. So I plan on sending a communication to the educational community in Southborough, faculty, staff, parents, and guardians today at 4:30, identifying the date, the rescheduling of the forum to March 11th to April 11th, and also the grade configuration survey to get community input around the preferred grade configuration survey is also going to be distributed today at 4:30. And the survey will close on Sunday, March 23rd, a day after the town meeting. Because I think we can have some QR codes at the town meeting and distribute those as if people sit there and hopefully complete the survey.
Any questions on those two items?
So, could us and Arrow Street just get a copy of the questions that are going out, and then can we be on the distribution for when it comes back? Okay.
Yes,
Um,
you're gonna fill it out too?
Sure. And then you were okay with the write-up? Obviously, feel free to
Yep.
wordsmith or
That
change
was
stuff,
helpful.
but
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay. All right. Good. That's all I got. Thank you.
So I think that brings me back to certainly a loaded question of how to engage the community and what else we can and should be doing at this phase, knowing that Greg is certainly reaching the school age population, whether they read his emails or not, obviously a question. We'll know based on the survey the level of engagement, right? So if you start getting 400 replies in, that's obviously pretty good sample size, or 1,000, or especially where you've got faculty and staff involved as well. And then we've heard suggestions about smaller meetings potentially at the senior center, and engaging the population that's there on a daily basis, that may not use social media, definitely not receiving Greg's regular communications, may or may not read the blog that tends to pick up Greg's communications. Really just, do we feel like the message is out there and people just don't care yet? Or do we feel like we're falling short on our messaging, right? Is the question I continue to ask. I will say I did receive an unsolicited response to our last discussion. Someone suggested we do what the DPW do each year when transfer station stickers expire, is they send out one of those big postcards. I mean, it does cost money though, with QR codes and or information. There's obviously so much you can fit. It's not a 3x5 postcard, but I mean anyone that it's a decent size, but it's not a full sheet of paper, right? So there's limited content. I'll save my reaction and open it up to the group, but I think that those are kind of the questions that I think are directly within our charge of, are we getting our message out? And are there other ways to get the message out if we're not getting it out effectively? I see Roger's hand up.
So I think I'm pretty sure that I understand when you're talking about getting the message out, you're talking about the overall message and getting out to the community overall. You can't see my hands expanding here. So I have a specific comment about the next community forum, I guess that we've moved out there, and that relates to Zoom or not. Shall we discuss that at some point soon, or anybody thinking about that at this point?
You're saying for the April 11th meeting,
Yes.
can we do it on Zoom as well?
Well, I suppose, is there a feeling that we should or should, well, I guess one question is, could we do it on Zoom? And even if the answer to that is yes, then it's should we do it on Zoom? because I think we've talked a little bit about the pros and cons of that.
My opinion, based on the feedback that some gave us in that very small audience last week in terms of the audio clarity, and even with microphones, I think that setup would be very challenging to have a hybrid setup. There are obviously rooms, whether it be the public safety building or the townhouse, that are more equipped for, like, I'll call it a hybrid structure. My suggestion would be that if they're available, we ask self-access media to just tape it so that people can replay it, and it can be posted on a website, would be my primary suggestion for that. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't potentially hold a separate Zoom with the same content. Or I think someone signed Greg and myself up to do like a pre-recorded statement of where we're at, that could also just be posted and updated as the project proceeds. That's my opinion on your question, Roger.
Well,
But
I tried to sneak my hand back up again, so
I'll let you cut in line.
I'd still get to continue.
You can cut in line.
To the initial comment of, can we get 2 times or 3 times the number of people to participate? Well, we've probably, I guess the community has set the bar low enough, so that probably shouldn't be difficult. And then we should publish the fact we got twice as many, or whatever. But I guess I agree with you, Jason, about the sound level. I'll call it sound level or acoustics. I think we should, whatever we do, I think we should try to use those microphones, even if it's just in kind of a non-Zoom meeting, but because I think that, folks still, I think, miss a lot. I mean, I recognize not everyone's hearing is as poor as mine, but I think I heard from a couple of folks that it would be better to, it takes a little longer, but to really proactively, pass the mics around if we need to do that or something. But if we get all access to record this, will that automatically? I guess the voices will be recorded better on the recording than they are in the meeting room. Is that an assumption that we should make? Greg, I saw you nodding, but I don't know if that means that's a fair assumption or not.
Well, I think it's easier to control the audio on a Zoom call or a
Fair
Google
enough.
Meet, but I think I agree with your point. Having, thinking about the audio in whatever form is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I can easily come around to Jason's reply, as far as let's stay away from the trying to do a hybrid, if you will, and but still record it. I mean, I think I'm convinced.
Kathleen, I know you may have had a hard stop, so I saw your hand up, and Denise was definitely ahead of you, but I don't know if you still had a hard stop or not, or wanted to get something in.
Yeah, I do. I have another meeting, but I just want to give some feedback I had an SOS meeting the other day, and parents want to attend, but it's difficult for them to attend at night. And I hear all the reasons why we wouldn't go with a hybrid or just a Zoom alone. I just want to give that feedback from them that the desire is there, but often babysitting or childcare, that impacts their ability to attend. And maybe the same goes for the seniors. They don't, maybe, driving at night is difficult. I'm not sure, but I think just taking that into consideration. And I did say I would pass that feedback along from the parent perspective.
Did they have a preferred time?
They did not have a preferred time. I could certainly go back and ask.
Yeah, I mean, we never thought about doing something during the day, which is obviously easier for everyone, at least on this for most people, like on our side, right? It doesn't necessarily, obviously, we're trying to at least get one parent from a household, right, engaged in the
Right.
conversation. We know we're not going to likely get two until you get to a full vote. But if you can get that feedback, that'd be great. And then maybe we could go to the other schools SOS as well.
I absolutely will.
Thank you. All right, Denise, thank you for being patient.
Oh, no problem. I'm not going anywhere. So I think a couple of things I'm hoping. I'm hoping that Greg's notice today and the survey is going to spark more interest. I think when parents see the survey, it may become a little bit more to the forefront that this is really going on and input is needed. And I think that might help jar some of that. The other thing is, we talked about putting something out at town meeting. I think if we put something out at town meeting, which then also speaks of the April 11th meeting, that might help as well. And hoping that this starts to build a momentum, because right now I think people are like, oh, whatever, it's years and years away, and I'm not talking, it's not affecting my taxes right now. And that's basically a lot of people, that's what jars them. It's gonna cost. And I think with Greg's survey, if we get a lot of responses, Greg, on the survey, my guess is we're going to have more people on the 11th, certainly from the school population. And then hopefully by using the method of putting something out, because again, I hate Article 1, but putting out just an informational sheet, which people pick those up and they do when they're sitting there, look through them, talk about the 11th, and hope that we're going to get more people that way. I think it's just because this isn't like right now that they don't see that there's a reality here and it's hitting their pocketbook. So it's like way down the road is my guess.
Yeah, I will tell you for the public safety building, it wasn't until about 30 days before the town meeting that people, unless it was in their neighborhood, in which case they were dealing with it about 2 months before that. So even then, where it had direct impact, and we will get clarity from Jim of what we can and can't do. Right, just not this Jim Hegarty's our town clerk. In terms of at town meeting, my concern, unless I'm missing something, is I'm not aware of any like controversial hot button town meeting topics this year, other than maybe some budgetary ones that are going to really draw any sort of significant crowd.
But Jason, that goes to my point. My point being that I think that the school age children, their parents, once they see the survey, it's going to become front and center because they're going to have an opinion as to what they think the configuration should be. And therefore, I think that's what's going to spark an interest in them. So the others, I think you're going to have a hard time until it affects them financially.
Roger?
So I wish I had heard Kathleen's comment before I agreed with Jason's position so quickly, but that's because Jason's a very persuasive guy, and I just found myself kind of going along with this. Well, let's not do a hybrid Zoom meeting. Now, the reason I at least want to take my vote back temporarily is I want to ask a question. There must be some way that we could deal with the audio in a Zoom meeting. And my reason for at least wanting folks to reconsider this is based on how important is feedback, from the community in a meeting like this. If you simply do a video, I guess I'm also saying interactive feedback, and I'm not wedded to this either way, but if interactive feedback is important, while kind of the design team is there, and then we will definitely get more feedback, I think, through a Zoom meeting than if we only get feedback from the folks that are there. So I just put the comment out to see how anybody feels about that, and maybe I don't know, maybe people don't feel like I do about it.
I just want to make sure my position was clear, because I think we may be saying the same thing differently, Roger. I'm a huge proponent that we need to do a Zoom meeting. I just don't think it's combined with the Thursday, April 11th meeting, because of the potential for audio quality issues. And I think you record the meeting on the 11th, and then there's probably a strategy, and it's likely after, but I welcome feedback on it, to have a follow-up Zoom. I think our goal is to get people in person, but recognize that that's not a reality for a lot of people based on Kathleen's feedback. So I think we offer both formats, but not together, not hybrid. It's Zoom only or in person only. And I realize that's twice as much time for everyone, but I think you're going to get two very different audiences, candidly. And we all know, just look at the start of this meeting, I'm not picking on any members in particular. You have any sort of technical difficulties, it delays you, right? And you want to be cognizant of people's time. So I don't know if that's in line with what you were thinking, Roger, but I'm solely stuck on technical difficulties. I agree, we need to do both formats.
All right, I decided I'm in complete agreement with you, Jason,
All right.
so my hand goes back down.
All right, Denise and others, what do you think?
I'm in agreement that we should have two. I really do, because if you can hit the people who can come to the meeting, great, and who like that one-on-one. And if you can't, then you have the Zoom for, especially as Kathleen said, those parents who are, are constrained from going out to a night meeting. But I think we should do both.
And obviously the challenge with it being Thursday, April 11th, which is the Thursday before school vacation, is if you try to do in person before Zoom, it means your Zoom is following to right behind school vacation. And I can tell you, as a parent of young athletes, that's when all the sports start, and you will lose that population unless you do it at a off hour. So it'd have to be like after dark, which then you get into, sort of. So it's not going to be easy. You're not going to get full engagement, and we can record in both settings. But I'd ask people to think about if everyone had open schedules, which we know is the other challenge, what is the right date to do that? And could it possibly be before, given that scheduling challenge?
Is that a question?
It's a question. Is it before or is it after?
You mean, is the Zoom meeting after, no, well, wait a minute, we need, the sequence of these is gonna be the in-person and then followed by the Zoom meeting. That's the sequence, correct?
That I'm confirming that everyone thinks that's the right sequence.
I would agree.
I agree.
So I'm not sure. I don't know if you can get these things both done before. I don't have my own issue with school vacation and child athletes, but I just know that that's difficult to do that. So I think that you get the one done before vacation, and then you try to follow on with as workable a date as we think possible to get the folks into the Zoom meeting.
Okay. Anyone have any comments or concerns about that?
Do you, Jason?
I mean, scheduling's a nightmare, but I think I'm
I know.
speaking for everyone.
Right, right.
I guess, Greg, you and your team have the most difficult schedule, especially given you're heading into another town meeting in and around that time. So what we were talking about was, I think we're in agreement we need two sessions. One is the in-person that we've already advertised, as of today, but that there should be a Zoom after that for people that can't attend. And obviously we run into the complication that school vacation week is literally right after that. Then you get into the youth sports season, which nothing's gonna ever be ideal, and you're in a town meeting season after that too. So any thoughts on timing around that? Obviously we're not going to agree on a date here today, but just that general framework or premise and how long to possibly wait after that?
Yeah, so if you set a date, either Stephanie, Keith, or one of us will attend. So what we're trying to do is be mindful. We all don't need to be at every event and spread this out across our team. So if you set a date, then we'll identify who will be in attendance if it conflicts with my schedule. So go ahead and move forward.
Okay.
Greg, I'm sorry to interrupt. Greg, could we pick which one of you we want to attend, please?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good, good. What's your calendar like, Stephanie?
And that sounds wonderful, Roger.
And everyone agrees we advertise in person only now, and then we follow up with a Zoom, option in a little bit, right? We don't need to land on that right this second.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Because otherwise we may not even hit our capacity
Get
we had
anything.
last time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The only other thing I would like to see if, and I'm not volunteering myself for this one, Denise or Roger, or you can find someone else on the Neary Building Committee that you think would be appropriate, is liaising with Pam LaFrancois at the Senior Center in figuring out the best way to have some sort of informal session and what the right times are to do that with the users of that facility. Again, you don't need to have all the sessions, but just figure out what's the right way to engage, or even talking to someone like Doug Peck, who's the chair of the Council on Aging.
I mean, I'd be happy to do that. And Denise, if you'd like to, that's fine, but I'd be happy to do it. I owe Pam a visit anyway. She's going to be upset with me if I don't visit her soon. So I can go ahead and take that on, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Anything else on other things we should be doing over at least the next couple of weeks? Okay, we talked about the survey already, so then I'm going to go to public comment, and there's no one here, so I'm going to skip that. Meeting schedule, I will probably have Mariana poll for a meeting probably 2 to 3 weeks out once we have the core of the website back from the designer. That would be our main topic, and then we can reassess. At that point, we'll know if Greg got more than 5 responses to a survey as well.
Jason, what are you thinking in general about, because you earlier said as far as meeting schedules, they'll probably pick up, what are you thinking about meeting frequency? I realize this is this is nothing cast in concrete, but is this a once a month, once a week, once every 2 weeks? And I know part of it is dependent on, kind of the tasks that are in front of us.
I don't know how many FAQs we're going to get, and I think that's going to drive the frequency of the conversation.
Okay.
But I would think
Fair
it
enough.
would be every 2 to 3 weeks.
Fair enough.
But short and sweet, right? I think the good thing with this group is we can usually carve out a half an hour to 45 minutes during the day, and just knock it out as opposed to taking a night at some point. So that's my general thinking. Obviously, I'm never going to call a meeting to just have a meeting though. So, but that's what I envision, at least until we hit the end of the school year. And then we'll have to see the challenges that are in front of us for the summer in terms of people actually paying attention to anything during the summer months.
All right, thank you. And I think that today worked well for Greg. So, in consideration for Greg, I'll try to make sure my video doesn't work for the next meeting also.
Okay. With that being said, is there any other business anyone wants to conduct today?
Just for the website for content, just obviously we've been compiling, the feasibility study agreement, everything in one place. So just let us know what we can supply once we get to the content piece of it. Because obviously we've been, populating our files with everything. So at some point,
we'll probably link you up with Cheryl and Mariana.
Okay,
Like
perfect.
and have you all use one shared drive as opposed to 5 different ones.
Yep.
Just so everyone has access to all the same things.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second,
Oops.
Any
Whatever.
further? All right,
Denise beat
roll-
me. Denise beat me.
Denise gets it. Roll call vote. Denise,
aye.
Roger,
Aye.
and I am I as well. Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Bye-bye.